Nowadays, the golden arches of McDonald's represent many things all over the world, whether it is memories of our childhood or just the thought of the fast food industry. We all know the giant M, but the story behind the world's most popular restaurant is an incredible one, full of hardships and challenges. And it all started with a visionary 52-year-old salesman nearing bankruptcy and two brothers with entrepreneurs' brothers. But what happened? How did the giant golden M appear all over the world? This is the story of how Ray Kroc turned a small restaurant into the multinational we all know and love, McDonald's. Who is Ray Kroc? We'll start this story by talking about Raymond Albert Kroc, born on October 5, 1902, in Oak Park, in the metropolitan area of Chicago. Ray came from a working-class Sikh immigrant family. He was always very independent, and from a very young age, he was determined to get ahead. For this reason, when World War I broke out, he falsified his age on his documents to take an ambulance driving course at the Red Cross. There he met a young man named Walt Disney, who would later become a successful entertainment industry magnate. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, in 1922, after Ray dropped out of high school and got two jobs to be able to provide for himself. One of these was a day job as a salesman in Lily Tulip Cup Co., a cardboard cup factory, and another one that was a half-time night job as the official pianist for the Hughes Oak Park's radio station, working as late as 2 in the morning. Despite the hard days, the income he generated was enough to buy his first car, a Ford T, and save some money, which he would later invest in buying his own house. Even though those weren't the easiest times, Kroc didn't give up. But that wasn't going to be enough for Ray. At the age of 37, he left the cup company and obtained exclusive rights to sell the multi-mixer, a blender that could make 5 milkshakes at once. With these rights, he founded Prince Castle Sales, where he would spend the next decade of his life traveling the country looking for customers among restaurants and soda fountain owners. The business was quite profitable, and in the late 1940s, allowed him to generate an income of $25,000 in a single year, while the average American earned less than $5,000 a year. It could have been a successful business that could last until his retirement, but as Bob Dylan sang, the times they are a-changing. With the expansion of highways across the country and with nearly 40 million cars on the road, food businesses migrated their service models to the popular drive-in, where orders are served without customers having to leave their cars. Faced with this new trend, stores such as soda fountains began to disappear, causing Kroc's sales and income to plummet. But then a golden light of hope appeared. While still working on the slowing down the business of the multi-mixers one day in 1954, Ray received an unusually large order of 8 mixes for a single restaurant in San Bernardino, California. This was so unusual, especially since most diners and restaurants needed no more than a couple of them to satisfy their clients, that Ray decided to drive himself to the restaurant to see what was going on there. When he got there, he was received by a giant sign reading McDonald's Burgers, a restaurant founded by the brothers Richard and Maurice McDonald, even though they were commonly known as Dick and Mac. He arrived there a little early, but right as lunchtime approached, it got really full. Ray had never seen anything like that. All these people were in line to be able to buy burgers for 13 cents, something he had never seen in any other restaurant. Without wasting any time, he showed up, handed over the machines, and inquired as much as he could about the successful restaurant and its efficient business model called Speed. Ray actually got to meet the brothers and struck a deal with them. They were looking to expand as a franchise, and if they managed to do that, he would become the exclusive provider of multi-mixers for every McDonald's restaurant. But soon after, he got an even better idea. Being the visionary that he was, he got the idea to be their franchise agent. That way, he could see to it that the model worked in every corner of the country. In return, he asked for a small share of 1.9s of the net sales of each franchise and agreed to give them 0.5 of the sales. Although they were still hesitant, Richard and Maurice, who were not as ambitious as Raymond, eventually agreed to the deal. Immediately, Ray Kroc began working hard to sell franchises and make each new franchisee feel like part of a family. McDonald's was starting to become well known, so entrepreneurs who decided to invest in the brand were already assured of positioning and good publicity. The standardization of the speed system allowed each new restaurant to have control over the quality of its products and services. Kroc's objective was to give the entrepreneurs the chance to invest in a very rentable business and provide them with all the necessary tools to make it work. Then, they'd just have to worry about learning the details and the functionality to make it work flawlessly. He was also very open to the ideas of the owners of each franchise, and he valued their efforts a lot. These ideas were warmly received, and many of them were implemented into the business. This policy really helped the McDonald's empire to grow exponentially. It only took a couple of years to grow the business to over 30 different locations across the United States. And using a part of his earnings, he actually reinvested into his very own McDonald's in Illinois in 1955. At first sight, it might all seem like a dream come true, but this wasn't a great deal at all. After all, it was a pretty unfair deal for Kroc, and the history of the brand would take an absolutely unexpected turn brought about by the clash between Ray Kroc's hunger for power and the modest character of the McDonald brothers. The conflict started due to the way Kroc was handling the business model and making everything more express didn't make Dick and Mac happy, even though a lot of these changes had to be done to keep the business afloat and to keep up the expansion speed. At the same time, Kroc, though, saw that the original deal wasn't fair at all. In fact, when he first signed it, he was so excited about it that he didn't even consult his lawyer or anything like that. He was getting the smallest of cuts while doing most of the work for the expansion and the business. He also considered his business partners to not be ambitious enough to be able to take the brand globally. He felt they would drag the company down. This led to a significant change in the financial structure of the franchises managed by Kroc in 1956, which became known as the Sonneborn model. Now, where did this name come from? That very same year, Kroc met Harry J. Sonneborn, an ex-vice president of finances in the Tastee-Freeze company, and he gave him the idea and key to accelerate the expansion of the business while growing the reliability. It was all about owning the real estate where the future McDonald's franchises would be built. This way, the company would also be able to appear as a real estate company. Ray liked the idea and hired Sonneborn to execute the plan immediately. They founded a separate company under the name of Franchise Realty Corp, and it would just be focused on real estate management. This would be a business relationship that would grow big and solid, as Sonneborn would also end up being an executive director of McDonald's. In 1956, Ray Kroc, together with Sonneborn, took a look at the success of the previous expansion plan and tried to replicate it as best as possible. They wanted to continue expanding with the same speed and quality. The Sonneborn model of real estate ownership proved so successful that it persists to this day and is considered one of the most important financial decisions in the company's history, as McDonald's real estate would eventually be worth more than $47.5 billion on its balance sheet, representing 99 of the company's assets and 35 of its annual gross revenues. This all helped a lot when working towards his main goal. To get the expansion right and the business going, he had to climb one step further and become the sole leader of the company. And by the year 1961, the clear lack of vision of the brothers and their attitude were heavily dragging Kroc's business. So he decided to make them an offer. He offered $500,000 to buy their share of the company, but they immediately refused. However, they did see it as an opportunity, and some months later, they came back to Ray with a counteroffer. They asked for $1 million for each of them, $700,000 to cover the tax costs, and also a 0.5 of all the future income of the business. Ray didn't have this amount at hand after all. He was trying to do this because he was hardly making a living out of his small cut. He needed to get a loan, and the banks didn't like the idea of giving out loans to restaurants. Here's when, once more, Sonneborn had an idea that would help Kroc save the business. He had a brilliant idea and communicated it to Kroc. First, to turn to financial expert John Bristol, who had great influence in Manhattan and was famous for taking risks. Then, to reassure the banks, he asked them for the $2.7 million loan through the real estate business he had created, since real estate generated greater financial confidence. Ray managed to get the loan with a 6 interest rate, and this way he was able to sign the check for $2.7 million and seal the deal and buy their share. He successfully became the owner of the McDonald's company. And since none of the parties wanted to declare the agreed 0.5 of future sales to the tax authorities, they decided to just shake hands on that to seal the deal. But it wasn't going to be that simple for Ray. The brothers wanted to play their last card, and they decided that the original first McDonald's restaurant was not included in the deal. But thanks to the deal giving Ray the rights to the name McDonald's, they were legally forced to change the name of the restaurant to the Big Eam instead. But since the brothers wanted to play that last card, Ray also had another card. He decided that the handshake part of the deal was never official either, and that would give them a taste of their own medicine. With the McDonald's brothers out of the picture, it was time to go global and expand the business into new horizons. With Kroc at the helm, the successful franchise model continued to expand rapidly throughout the United States, but several unexpected problems also began to arise, such as one franchise owner owning 25 or even 30 restaurants, or some operators complaining that their sales volume was dropping because another franchise was too close. Among many other situations that arose and to which Kroc tried to find a quick and strategic solution, in 1961, he came up with the idea to start what he called the Hamburger University in Oak Brook, Illinois. This was a property of over 120,000 square feet, and it came to be especially to form the future talent of the company. This was a way to train the new personnel and make it competitive in the big international market. This became a really successful initiative, and thanks to this, it was replicated in multiple countries all over the world. There are now 7 different hamburger universities over the world, training over 7,500 students every year in 28 different languages. This means chefs, managers, franchise owners, and every different aspect of the McDonald's business. It can be quite exclusive, too. The Hamburger University in Shanghai has an acceptance rate of just 1, making it 7 times harder to get in than Harvard. In 1963, the world saw the birth of Ronald McDonald, the friendly clown we all know, and that quickly became an icon in the food industry. He even became one of the biggest and most iconic faces in the fast food business. Ray kept the philosophy that allowed the owners of the franchises to come up with ideas to apply, and some of the biggest things in the McDonald's business came to be thanks to this. Some ideas, such as the Big Mac, the Happy Meal, and the Filet-O-Fish were born thanks to this inclusive philosophy. Raymond Kroc, on the other hand, had a personal fortune of more than $500 million and was in charge of the business until 1974, when he decided to retire and purchased a professional baseball team, the San Diego Padres of Major League Baseball, for $12 million. Although this led to an increase in the number of fans attending the stadium, the sports results were poor, so Ray grew tired and ended up handing over the management of the team to his son-in-law Ballard Smith. The Kroc family kept the team until 1990. In the same year, 1974, the company started the first Ronald McDonald's House Charities. This would evolve to become a non-profit organization to help the cause of creating, helping, and supporting programs that aim to improve the quality of life of children and families in need. They've collaborated with different organizations all over the world to build housing, recreation centers, and much more programs that help those in need. Raymond Albert Kroc passed away on January 14, 1984, in San Diego, California. That very same year, just a few months later, the San Diego Padres became champions of the National Baseball League. After his death, his beloved wife, Joan Kroc, would donate most of her fortune to multiple philanthropic causes all over the world, like a multi-millionaire donation to the Salvation Army that allowed them to build many community centers. Many of these donations were also to work in causes that prevented alcoholism, a disease that Ray suffered throughout his life. Thus, we conclude the exciting story of Ray Kroc, an ambitious and visionary man who managed to turn a small hamburger restaurant into one of the largest and most successful fast food chains in the world. Although many of his actions were questioned, It is undeniable that, without his contribution, McDonald's would not be the empire it is today. In his own words, "If you work just for the money, you're never going to make it. But if you love what you do, success will be yours. Luck is a sweat dividend. The more you sweat, the luckier you'll get." Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share the video. Leave a comment below to tell us what you think of this video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.